Welcome, curious souls, to Paranormal M, where we unravel the secrets of the supernatural. I just want to give a shout out to a couple regular listeners and let you guys know that I appreciate the support. So, with that being said, quick shout out to Mama1983, Trina Bridges, Marlene Morris, Tara Kelly, M. Kelly, and Mike Strip. We hope you're prepared for a journey into the unknown. Connecting the dots. I always was freaked out by ghosts growing up, but never truly believed in them. I would always freak myself out watching scary videos and jump at shadows for the next couple nights. But something different happened to me not too long ago. Something that sends shivers down my spine every single time I tell the story. It all started my sophomore year of high school. I had one of my buddies over for a sleepover, and after staying up till midnight playing games, we decided to go to bed. I was lucky enough to have an extra bed set up in my room that I had my friend Dave sleeping in. We end up falling asleep after some time and some chit-chatting. Later in the night, I'm awoken to a blood-curdling scream coming from Dave across the room. He was sitting up in his bed, pale as a ghost. I asked him what happened and why he was screaming. He replied, Nothing, I'm sorry. Must have just been a nightmare. I said, Oh, okay, no problem, I guess. Then we fell back asleep. Some years later, I was sleeping in my bed. I was alone in my room this time around, when I suddenly woke up with cold sweats and in a severe panic. I just assumed I woke up from a nightmare that I didn't remember. Some preface. I usually would sleep in my bed facing the wall because I never wanted to look out into the abyss of my room and become horrified by mere shadows. So when I woke up that night, I rolled over and checked my phone. The time was 4 a.m. When I set my phone down, I saw something that made me freeze in terror. I was staring eye to eye with a young boy, mouth agape, eyes blacker than the depths of the sea. He was wearing old-timey clothing, a white collared button-up suspender. His hair was a neat jet black in a bowl cut. I have never been so horrified in my life. I couldn't move. All I could do was just stare at this figure who moved not a muscle. He was paralyzed with fear, just like me. After what felt like an eternity, I reluctantly rolled back over and tried to fall asleep, hoping that I was just having a bad dream that felt all too real. To my dismay, the nightmare would soon become a reality. The next day I went through my daily routine, trying to forget about the horrors I faced the night before. As the sun fell, I felt a sense of dread take over me, knowing that I would have to go back to bed eventually. I laid in bed watching my TV with the sleeper timer on. I eventually fell asleep. I was once again awoken, same cold sweats, same alarming trepidation. I checked my phone, which this time luckily was on the side of my bed closest to the wall. The time lit up to a familiar sight. It was 4 a.m., and to my dismay, I suddenly got an unstoppable urge to turn around. Once again, I saw the nightmarish gaze. I was freaking out so bad I ran out of my room and sat in the living room with all the lights on. My mom heard me running down the stairs and asked me what happened. She told her, or rather I told her everything about both nights and that disturbing nighttime visitor. She chalked it up to sleep paralysis and explained that sometimes dreams can feel real. I assumed she was correct. I mean, she's a mom, they're usually right? Right. The next year, on a dark, cold night, I was hanging out with my older brother on the back porch, shooting the shit. We talked about everything, work, school, aliens. And then we got to the topic of the hour. I asked him, "Hey man, have you seen anything crazy around the house? Like anything spooky?" He told me, "Yeah, now that you mentioned that, you're not gonna believe, but I've heard some creepy shit recently." I was in my room late that night, and I heard a strange, inhuman moaning coming from my door. There was also a nasty scratching at the bottom of the door, almost as if there was an animal of some kind on the other side of it. The only thing is, Barry, our only dog at the time, was with me in my room. I was starting to get chills, but I was intrigued. I said, "Damn, that's crazy, man, but have you seen anything?" He shrugged and said, "I think it may have been a dream, or maybe I was just too high that night. My brother was a big stoner back then. But I think I saw something in the living room. I was out there by myself late at night playing games on my phone. I looked up at the fish tank and saw what looked like a strange young boy with his face pressed against the glass, hands by his side, just standing there, motionless. I was starting to panic. I mustered up the courage to ask him the question. "Danny, what did he look like?" And Danny told me every single detail with incredible accuracy with my encounter. I'd never told anybody about this beside my mom. Even then, I didn't go into that much detail with her because she didn't seem to believe me anyways. But he described everything. The white-collared shirt, the suspenders, the bowl cut. I was absolutely mortified. I told him my story, and then he started freaking the hell out, telling me that there's no way that this is a coincidence. Suddenly I remembered my friend in my room years back. I gave him a call, and Jesus Christ, I wish I didn't. "Hey Dave, what's up, man? Hey, I got a question for you. Do you remember when you were sleeping over at my house and you woke up screaming? I was just curious as to what that actually was, just wondering." He said, "Oh man, I think it was just a nightmare. Could have sworn I saw a boy in your room. I thought it was like your younger brother, but when I looked at him and looked at you, he was gone." Me and Danny are freaking the hell out at this point. He was sprinting around my pool yelling my ass off, and well, he gets back to me and we recollect ourselves. Dave's on the phone still at this point. "What? What's all that yelling?" "Dave, can you tell me what that boy looked like?" Yeah. He looked like really old-timey, like early 19th century. He had suspenders, a white shirt, and he had a black bowl-cut hairstyle. To this day, that story haunts me to my goddamned core. I can't seem to find any other options beside that I was indeed a spirit, or that was a spirit that had visited us. I sleep with the night mask on now. Ghost or demon following me. To start the story off, I live in the ghetto, at least for a while, with my dad and my stepmom, and my little sister, but she comes in later. Ever since my dad moved into that house, I've had weird experiences, like scratching on my closet door. But anyways, he married my now stepmom, and she had experiences too. But once my sister was born, things got worse. I would wake up and see people standing over my bed, butterflies flying into my pillowcase, which seems nice, but I'm actually terrified of them. And even her toys would turn on by themselves. But one night in particular, I woke up and saw a strange man standing over my sister's crib. We shared a room, just looking at her. We eventually moved houses, and I went to my friend's house, and we played the Ouija board, and I was asking it questions that had answers that she didn't even know. I asked if the ghost is attached to one of us, and it said that it was attached to me. I then asked if it was one that was in my old house. It said yes. I asked if it was a man standing over my sister's bed. It also said yes. He said that he's a demon, but attached to me because he likes me and my family. When I got home, though, strange things would happen. A piece of stone that was cemented into one of the living room walls fell out in an odd way. My dad watched it happen and told me. It came out, stopped for a split second, then fell and shattered into the floor. Another strange incident was a toilet flushing by itself. But that's not the creepiest. Me and this demon have created some sort of friendship and communication. I hear taps in my room, and that's his way of telling me that he wants to talk. 1 tap means yes, 2 taps means no. One night I felt very heartbroken. I said, "When's the person that's meant for me going to come?" Because I normally just talk to myself to kind of calm me down, and next thing I hear is a tap right next to me. And a man with a very scratchy voice whispering in my ear, "He's coming." A month after that, I found my boyfriend, and the activities calmed down a bit. The Little Kid. This time I was around 13, and not alone. I had my little brother 7 and my mom's best friend's daughter 8. We were sitting on the floor in the living room watching TV. My mom and dad had a friend here in the kitchen with them. Everything's pretty normal. I had goosebumps a couple of times. After a while, we all turned our heads in the same direction. Me and the kids. Something just passed in the hallway between my parents' room and mine, like if something just left the bathroom. The kids looked at me weirdly, so I asked, "You saw it too?" They said, "Yeah," kind of scared. So I told them, it's probably just my parents or their friend. I stand up and go into the kitchen, asking, "Who was in the bathroom?" They looked at me and said, "What are you saying? We haven't moved from here." I got suspicious. I decided to go and look for what happened. I looked in my parents' room, the bathroom, and even my own room. Nothing. I thought I could be imagining it. The kids saw it too, but I forgot about it and months passed. One night my grandmother, on my father's side, needed help because she was sick, so my mom and I took the car to go to her apartment. On our way back, my dad called us, so I took the phone and said, "Yeah, why are you calling?" He asked when we'll be back. I said, in 20 minutes, I think. Then he told me, something really weird happened. He continued, "I was watching TV and saw someone walking in the hallway between my room and yours. I instantly remembered what happened months ago, but didn't say anything." He added, "Thought it was your brother because it's almost the same height as him. I waited 20 minutes, but didn't see him going back from the bathroom. I thought maybe he'd fallen asleep on the toilet, so I came to see if it was empty. I came in your brother's room and he was sleeping." I told him that we would talk about it at home, and we did. I said, "Remember that time I asked you to come into the bathroom? Well, me and the kids saw the same thing as you. Like a little kid running there. We tried to look at the past of the house, but we haven't found anything. I haven't really gotten scared because, it wasn't something bad. Still, we saw it a couple of times before it stopped completely." He came to see me. One night I came to sleep. Nothing weird. It was in winter. My bed was a bunk bed, and I always slept on the top part because the bottom one had all my plushies on it. I fall asleep easily. During the night I woke up because I was cold. At first I thought, oh, Mom probably had opened the window and forgot to close it. So I turned my head on my right looking at the window. That's when my heart skipped a beat. I saw a human shape, translucid white. In front of the window, looking in my direction, it looked like a man. I got scared and tried to hide myself in my sheets. I was breathing slowly, trying to stay silent. That's when I felt my hair being touched, like if someone was looking at them and touching it. I even felt that one strand of hair was being lifted. I couldn't help but scream like if someone was trying to kill me. I heard my mom and father running in the stairs. They entered my room and I was crying. She came to hug me and asked what happened, and I told her everything. She wasn't even concerned. She told me to calm down, that it wasn't bad. We talked about it for the next morning, and she told me, "Don't be afraid. I think it's my father who died when I was 15. He wasn't trying to hurt you. I think he came to look at his granddaughter." I couldn't believe it. But it never happened again, and I haven't saw that man again, because I experienced tons of things like that in my life. My grandma on my father's side, which was sort of a witch, didn't know until I was 15. And she had some supernatural ability to see things normal people can't see. She always told me I had the same ability, but I never wanted to believe, neither try to control it, so I keep seeing things that genuinely scare me. The scariest day of my life. When it happened, I was 15. I'm a girl, and I'm now 20. I was sleeping at my friend's house. So later that day, around October, she said, "Let's do some urbex. There's an abandoned factory near my house." I accepted. So when we were there, I started feeling weird. But I thought that was probably because it was just new for me, exploring, blah, 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 blah. Everything went well except the fact that I had the feeling of being spied on. After an hour exploring there was only one room left to visit. So I asked her, "What's behind the door?" She said, "Oh, nothing, it's the attic. Nothing interesting. Also, there's a lot of wasps' nests. You shouldn't go there." I was young and stupid, so I replied, "Don't worry, I'll go, and I'll see if there's nests and I'll quickly come back." The door was stuck, so I kicked it and opened it. First thing I saw was wooden stairs. While climbing, I started having this weird feeling even more. It was scaring me a bit, but I was brave. So I looked at what was upstairs, and I could see a room with a big round window. And at that moment, I saw 2 walls right beside that room, and it was around 1 meter wide. And that's when I saw eyes. They were looking at me, and I was petrified. Couldn't look away, too scared, couldn't move. After something like 5 minutes of that thing staring at me, couldn't see his body, but my friend asked me, "Is everything okay?" But I couldn't reply. Then the thing moved in my direction. That's when I started running in the stairs as fast as I could. I was skipping the steps 4 to 4, too afraid it could be faster than me. I screamed to my friend, "Run, just run!" After being back home, I was shocked. We haven't talked about it much. I told her I saw something, but that's all. After months, we needed to walk past that factory to meet one of her friends. I was feeling spied again, but we could hear something following us in the forest. That wasn't fun at all. I could see a shadow here and there, but I chose to ignore it. Why? After leaving the forest, We were on a path in a field of tall grass. I stayed there near the forest waiting for my friend to come back, because the other girl didn't like me at the time. Then I saw a shadow between two big trees, and before I could realize it, that shadow was in front of me in the tall grass. I couldn't see it well, but I was able to see his eyes looking at me. It was approaching me slowly. I was so scared, and writing messages to my friend saying that the thing was there. My friend took something like 2 minutes to see my messages. 2 minutes that looked like hours to me. From where she was, she could totally see what was behind the grass, so she started screaming my name, telling me to join her as fast as possible. But I couldn't run. I had a feeling if I was taking my eyes off of it, it could be dangerous, even more dangerous than now. So I walked backwards until I was with her, seeing the thing following me, and then it disappeared in a second. I was so scared, so once again we ran away to her house, locking all the doors. When I was in my room, I could hear weird sounds and see shadows. That was a nightmare. I wasn't able to sleep because the sounds were waking me up. I was feeling spied on in my own bedroom. So I tried to talk about it with my friend, and she refused to tell me what she saw. She just said, "It's not important to know what it was, because we won't go there, ever." After a while, somebody told me to try to speak to that thing. Ask it to let me alone, and that I was sorry if I did something wrong. And that's what I did, and since then I never saw it or heard it again. I was genuinely scared. Sometimes I still feel this weird feeling, but not as much as before. Something is happening in my apartment. I moved into John's apartment a couple of months after he started dating. I know it sounds quick, but we knew each other well before dating, and it's not the point of the story. On March of 2016, and he lived here since 2013 already. Not long after moving in, I started to notice some strange things. Some objects would disappear, then reappear randomly. It was always small objects, and it was a rare occurrence at first. John said that it was a thing I should get used to, because it happened to him even before I started living here. Over the months and the years, it was occurring more and more often, to the point of at least once or twice a week. We started joking about it. We pretended that there was a leprechaun stealing our things when we weren't looking. I started saying, still jokingly, that it was more of a ghost, because often we would find the lost stuff. It would be in random places, sure, but we still ended up finding them. I even realized that if I lost something and I asked out loud to please give the stuff back to me, I would often find it in the same day or the day after. Maybe in a random place or right where I already looked 3 times before. I have 3 main examples of what happens most of the time. 1. We would have to go somewhere, and I wanted to wear one of my favorite shirts. I searched in my wardrobe on the shelf where I put all my t-shirts. It wasn't there. I was sure that it was here, and, well, it couldn't be in the washing machine since I took it out of the washing machine, put it on the clothes rack to dry, and then I put it in my wardrobe. So with all my other shirts 2 days prior, that's what I did. So I took all my t-shirts one by one out of my wardrobe, expecting to find the shirt that I wanted to wear. When the shelf was emptied, I still hadn't found this shirt. I asked John if, well, maybe he had taken it, but he said no. So I put every shirt one by one again, just in case I missed it, back on the shelf. Still, no trace of this shirt. Then I said out loud, "Please, Can you please give me my shirt back? I need it. I went to the toilet, and when I came back, the shirt was there on top of the other t-shirts. John couldn't have done it. He was and stayed in the living room. I was on the toilet, and from the living room you have to go past the toilet to go to the room where clothes are. So I would have noticed if he had left the living room in general, so I grabbed my shirt and I said, "Thank you," out loud. 2. We have 2 incense holders. One made out of wood, who was pretty basic, and one who was a gift from John's sister made of ceramic. The wooden one is usually in the bedroom, and the other is usually in the living room. One day John wanted to burn some incense, but he was unable to find the ceramic incense holder in the living room, where he spends most of his time. So we came to the bedroom. He was looking for the other one, and it had also disappeared. I got up and we both started to look for them. I found the wooden incense holder in the sink. I grabbed it and went to join John, while saying that I'd found the wooden one, and then I found another wooden incense holder, exactly like the one I had in my hand. That was on our freezer. Weird, but okay. Maybe we had another one and I forgot. Then I found a third wooden incense holder. It was looking like the other 2 where the ceramic one's usually standing. Finally, I found the ceramic incense holder in the bedroom on a shelf, where none of us had put an incense holder before. 3. I'm still upset about this one. I ordered a single blade razor online not too long ago. It took almost 2 months to arrive. The joy of AliExpress. I feel you. When it finally arrived, I put it inside my makeup bag. The next day, perfect timing, we had to go out and I wanted to wear makeup for the occasion. As I said in the preface, I spend most of my time on my bed, and I do pretty much almost everything on my bed, including my makeup. And when I do it, I push all the blankets to the end of the bed in a corner so nothing can accidentally get under the blankets. I always start with my makeup with my eyebrows. So, of course, I use my new single blade razor. When I'm done with it, I put it back in my makeup bag and keep doing my makeup. Makeup finished, time to tidy up. I noticed that the razor is missing. I looked around me, under the pillows, under the blankets. Still, no trace of the razor. I take every item one by one out of my makeup bag, and it's definitely not in there. I put the items back inside the bag and I searched under the bed. Another time under the pillows and blankets. I shook the blankets. I looked once more inside the makeup bag and under the bed, but I still couldn't find it. And to this day, I still haven't found my razor despite me asking, out loud to the thing that steals our stuff to please give it back to me. We also moved the bed and we changed the blankets multiple times. I'm still bitter about it, because it took a lot of time to arrive and I could literally use it only once. So this is mostly what's happening within my apartment. Stuffs either disappear and reappear in random places after you ask politely. Or sometimes they disappear forever, or disappear and reappear in multiple places at the same time. And please note that those things never happened or are never happening outside of this apartment. I never experienced something similar when I lived with my parents, or when I lived in my own apartment, or when we're at my, best friend's house or my mother-in-law's house or outside shopping. It only happened or is only happening inside our apartment. And I was fine with that until this week. At the beginning of the week, I can't remember the exact day, I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom, and from the corner of my eye, I saw something moving. I saw a black shape moving really fast, probably running from left to right. It was in the hallway between our bathroom and the bedroom. It was pretty small, about the size of a medium-sized dog. I only saw a shape, nothing that looked like limbs or a head. It was very quick. It didn't look like an animal or a humanoid. 2 days after the incident, I saw the exact same thing from the corner of my eyes, also while brushing my teeth in the bathroom. Still running fastly from left to right in the same hallway. Made me freak out. I don't know what it may be, but I have a bad feeling about it. I couldn't really explain why, but the thing I saw was really black and dark, and it just has a bad vibe. I'm currently trying to avoid going to the bathroom as much as possible. The last thing that happened is what made me write this post. It happened a few hours ago, and I was taking a shower. I can't stay standing up for too long, so I always have my shower sort of sitting down. I had enough energy today, so I wanted to wash my hair. While sitting down with my wet hair, I was just cleaning my body, and I saw it again. My shower has a door that makes things very blurry from inside and blurry from outside. So, like last times, I saw a black shape moving very quickly, but no detail, nothing definite. I saw it outside of my shower, but it was still not really big, and it looked like it moved from its height to the floor and disappeared. I waited a little, got out of the shower with my wet, unwashed hair. Now I'm afraid to go to the bathroom alone. I don't want to see it again. And for now, I only saw it when I was in the bathroom and alone. I've lived my life as an atheist, but just had my first paranormal experience. She pulled up near where the incident happened, waited in the car while I got out to get what I needed. The first thing I notice as I'm stepping out of the car is a huge gust of wind, and leaves begin falling rapidly from nearby trees. Not uncommon, but slightly weird because it's still been very hot and humid where I live. Fall has not yet begun yet. The only time it gets windy, like if there's a big storm coming, and there wasn't. And I try to ignore it, but the strong gusts of wind are rampant. The entire several minutes I'm walking around getting a video of the names and dates. I finish up quickly, get back to the car. The moment I get in my mom's, just says, "Ashley, I don't know if you even noticed, but I was watching the entire time you were out there. It was so windy with leaves falling everywhere. Now that you're back in here, everything's completely stopped." She was right. I looked around and it looked like a completely different setting. Not a single leaf falling, no signs of wind, just eerily still and completely silent. We sat and watched for several minutes to see if it would pick up again, but it didn't. Everything was completely still, and we just drove out of the cemetery. So we're both kind of weirded out, but again, I can't say that's a paranormal sign of something paranormal. Prominent sign of something paranormal. I decided to watch the video I took so I can start looking up names. The first tombstone I happened to capture is of Mayme Malden. M-A-Y-M-E. Never heard of that name. Mamie or Mame? I'm going to say Mame. I happen to capture is of Mayme Malden. I'll later find out that she is the monarch of the entire family buried in that section where the initial incident happened. But as I'm watching, it hits me that the date of her death is 9/13/69, as in the day that we decide to visit the cemetery to get those names is her death date. I will say that freaked me out because what are the chances? I've been putting it off and we just so happened to go on the day she died. What the fuck? Anyways, that's my update for you guys. I'm doing research in my spare time. Feel like this is going to be an ongoing saga. And will of course let you know all the more as anything unravels. Hey, world of Reddit. This is my first post here because I don't know where else to turn to. I guess this post is in two things without titles. Sorry and bear with me. Hello, world of Reddit. This is my first post here because I don't know where else to turn to. I'm a 25-year-old and I've lived my entire life into this point as an atheist. I didn't believe in God and still don't, to be honest, and absolutely nothing paranormal. I was always skeptical of believers and was certain that they're just exaggerating simple stories or maybe even fabricating them entirely. I could never sit through a single episode of ghost hunting shows because I just knew they were lying and faking evidence for the TV. Fast forward to the present time. Not long ago, my mother came up to visit, and for a while has wanted to photograph a very old cemetery in my town. She's a professional photographer. Thought it'd be cool. We finally decided to do so because I had free time and the weather was nice out. We loaded up all the equipment and rode over to the cemetery. I took several photos all over the cemetery and did a lot of sightseeing of the old headstones. A lot of them are from the late 1800s. We came across an incredibly unique tombstone, an extremely tall and aged marble in color, and had like a huge oval-like opening in the middle of it. We decided to take some pictures behind the opening of that tombstone. We set up the tripod and both got behind it, took a few what ended up being silly pictures. This was via the remote and had a couple laughs. She's my best friend and we stayed laughing. I told her it was getting late, so we should probably stop and get loaded back up, head back to the house. She agreed, and we walked away from the marble tombstone to grab the equipment just a few feet away. As we begin walking away, my mom is a few feet ahead of me, and I'm following directly behind her. I suddenly feel a heavy and abrupt weight hit my back. I can only compare it to perhaps somebody slapping your upper back with a surfboard or a huge plank of wood. It knocked the wind out of me, and I whelped, quickly freaking out trying to process what the hell was happening. I immediately noticed my mom was freaking out too, majorly. I assume that she saw or sees whatever hit my upper back, but then I noticed that she's yelling words. Get it off! What's on my back? Oh my God, something's on me! It dawns on me that she is feeling exactly what I felt. I start yelling back, trying to tell her that nothing's on her and to calm down. I start frantically explaining the physical attack I just felt myself. And we both apparently felt this. We're both very visibly shocked and confused. There were no trees above us in the area where we were standing, and there was nothing on the ground around us that would indicate something being thrown. We were also the only ones at the cemetery at that time. My mom had a mark on her left shoulder a couple of days later. I'm still trying to find ways to process this as I've never been a believer. But I now do without question. And I, however, have tons of different questions. Why did this happen to us, and what was so powerful to launch such a physical attack on two human beings at the same time? Again, just why? How? This has opened a whole new world to me, honestly. It brings up curiosity for the afterlife and death in general. I dug and did some research to see if anybody's ever investigated Laurelwood Cemetery where this happened to us. Much to my surprise, a family paranormal team that has a show on Icon Paranormal actually did an investigation there back in 2012. I tracked down their page on Facebook and reached out via Messenger. I told them about our incident and asked for more information on their investigation. The dad answered and he told me that he wasn't surprised, as it was one of the most active cemeteries he'd ever been to. He also sent me to the links of all the footage that they got there and all the amazing evidence that they got. My first time having sleep paralysis. The past few weeks I've been having horrible insomnia. I've been so tired that I'm having double vision. My chronic migraines have been happening every day. Just life in general has been pretty bad because of the lack of sleep. I finally got to sleep around 4 in the morning the other day. I don't even remember falling asleep, but as I was sleeping, I heard someone say, "Hey, watch out! There's something on your back." I was home alone. I tried to move to see who was talking, but couldn't move. I couldn't even open my eyes. I started to really freak out when I suddenly felt something on my back. It wasn't super heavy, so my first thought was that I left the door open and my cat was on my back. But then I felt long claws scraping my neck, claws much larger and sharper than that of my cat. The claws were just kind of running up and down my neck and spine, not cutting, just scraping. Then I felt breath on my neck. It was heavy, and with every exhale I could hear a low growl and feel the wet breath on my neck. Finally I heard someone shout, "Go away!" And the thing seemed to crawl off and I was able to move. I woke up at 6. The bedroom door was still shut, so I know it wasn't my cat. I was so confused and freaked out. I've never had sleep paralysis before, and I'm assuming that that's what this was. But I don't know who was talking, but I heard the same voice throughout the day. I chalked that up to lack of sleep, and now I'm just hearing voices. The girl in the basement. So I grew up in a house that had a few spirits in it. My family are all skeptics and would find some way to explain things away. A few experiences, and then I'll get into the main story. Our house was 3 stories, with technically 3 master bedrooms, 1 on each floor. The one on the main floor we used as an office. I would constantly hear someone walking around in the office at night, sinks turning on, toilets flushing, and occasionally talking. My parents would always say that someone was awake and making those noises, and the toilet and the water running was just faulty pipes. There would be a shadow figure that would place itself sort of on the tip floor. There was like a balcony that overlooked the foyer, and I would usually see who I was presuming to be a lady in a dress pacing. My parents just said it was a shadow of someone outside. We were on a hill overlooking all of our neighbors, so I don't know how they thought that this was possible. 3. I hated using the upstairs bathroom, which was my bathroom. I would hear talking and singing from the bathroom. When no one was home and I was in there, someone would bang on the door. One time I was showering and listening to music, and I heard the banging really loud. So loud that it seemed to shake the room. Then the locked door swung open, and then I heard a scream. My parents said that my brother was pranking me, which is something that he never did. Anyways, on to the main event. My brother's about 10 years older than me. He was the only living sibling at the home with me and my parents. He had the master bedroom in the basement. I was never really in the basement except for going to the garage because the garage was in the basement next to the bedroom. I always remembered feeling uneasy down there, but I wanted big rooms, so when my brother moved out, I begged my parents to let me have his room. And eventually they caved and let me have it. I moved all my stuff downstairs, painted and everything. I loved my new room. I was talking to my brother about it one day, and he told me, "Watch out for the little girl who lives down there. She likes to laugh." I was shocked, as obviously he was kidding. My whole family beside me, they never talked about stuff like that. I just laughed and shrugged it off, and he was probably just trying to scare me. About a week after I moved into my new room, I had a friend come over. We were just laying on the floor next to the bathroom laughing. That's when she had to go use the bathroom. She closed the door and just zoning out when all of a sudden she goes, "That's not funny." I asked her what she meant. I didn't do anything. She said that she heard someone laughing right outside the door. I didn't do anything or hear anything. She left freaked out and assumed my brother put her up to it, since she liked my brother. A few days later, I heard someone in my bedroom while I'm in the shower. I call out thinking that it's my mom, but I don't hear anything. I get out, and as I'm putting my robe on, I hear a little girl's giggle, and then, "Are you looking for me?" I freak out. I throw open the door to my room, but no one's there. I checked the garage and ended up setting off the house alarm, so no one could have come and gone through the doors without everybody knowing. I run upstairs and my mom is pissed. She's pissed that I set off the alarm, and I tell her what just happened. She told me my brother had a similar story when we first moved in, but it was nothing. Called my brother and asked him why he told me to watch out for the little girl. He said that I was the little girl. He was kidding because, he would always come downstairs and giggle really creepy. Well, I never did anything like that. And I told him that, and he got a little bit creeped out. I still would occasionally hear the little girl, never saw her, but she did like to laugh and open the bathroom and closet doors, and I named her Sarah. My brother called me up today, asked me about this. He asked me if I was sure I've never, tried to scare him by laughing. I told him again, no. Got uncomfortable. I don't think he knows how to handle the fact that our house was mildly haunted. I talked to my dead best friend. So a few years ago, I lost my best friend to suicide. It was very sudden, and for a while, we didn't really know why she did it. Eventually, her boyfriend and I hacked into her phone and computer. We think we figured out why, although we weren't totally sure. I really struggled with losing her. She was really my only friend for a long time. About 2 years after her passing, another friend was visiting and we got to talking about her. We decided to do a Ouija board to try to talk to her. I had never done a Ouija board before. I had heard some pretty bad stories about them, but decided to give it a shot. My friend and I made a board, set up a recorder, and sat down to start. The first few minutes, nothing happened, and then things got weird. The planchette started moving. Thought it was my buddy moving it, but he said he wasn't. He asked a question about, where did we meet? And the board spelled out, Stoner Pond, which is where they met. Then I asked, what did we do the first time we hung out? And it spelled out, burgers, which is what we ate the first time we hung out. My buddy and I tried to keep the question to only things and others, My buddy and I tried to keep questions to only things the others wouldn't know, as to rule out one of us moving the piece. At this point, we were pretty sure neither one of us were moving it. I decided to ask if she was happy. The board said yes, and then spelled out mom. And I knew that she had found her mom wherever she ended up. We had to stop shortly after as we had started to get, other more negative spirits coming through. After we ended, my buddy and I decided to listen to the recording that we took during the Ouija board session. Right before we started getting responses on the board, there was a voice saying hello, but turned up the volume and realized it was our friend. I definitely got some closure doing it, but honestly, probably won't do it again. Second part. This is where things get crazy. So I had quite a few requests to post the last half of my Ouija board story. In part 1, I contacted my dead best friend, got some closure. But we only talked for a few minutes before things got dark. My buddy and I were sitting down and talking with our friend, and soon after we started talking to her, the board started doing weird things. I was kind of unexperienced with Ouija boards, so I didn't quite understand when the planchette started going in circles and figure eights. My buddy started to get visually nervous and said that we had to close the session immediately. We said goodbye, moved the piece, but the piece moved to hello, and then to goodbye and back and forth. My friend was now freaking out but wasn't telling me what was going on, but I made the assumption that it was something very dark. We started asking questions like, what's your name? What do you want? Basic stuff. The spirit said that his name was no. And when we asked what he wanted, it spelled out my nickname, then went back and forth between the two letters. Then it said die and went I was now the one to start freaking out. I quickly said goodbye, and this time the planchette didn't move away from it. We thought it was over. I can feel spirits, so we saged and salted the house, and I didn't feel anything negative. We went about our day, and I never felt anything. But when I woke up in the morning, I had a set of 3 scratches down my leg. I knew what it meant, so I called my buddy back over, and we burned the board. We salted and saged again and again. We thought it was over. The next morning I woke up to 3 scratches down my back and bruises on my arms and legs. I felt something watching me and I started to get very paranoid about being home alone. I'm not new to the paranormal. I've lived with spirits pretty much my whole life. But this was something totally different, and I couldn't control my anxiety. This went on for about a week, and then it just kind of faded away. I was still paranoid about going to the bedroom, which is where we did the Ouija session, and where most activity took place. Then it came to a head. I woke up sobbing about a very realistic nightmare. It was about my husband getting possessed and coming after me and killing me. It was horrible. I couldn't tell if it was a dream. I went to a meeting where had some guys come over and do something. I'm not sure what, but the haunting stopped. I still had my friendly spirits that would hang around, but the mean one was gone. Finally. I saw a skinwalker. Let me start off by saying that I'm very into the paranormal. I've seen spirits since I was very young. My friends think I'm actually psychic because I have so many experiences. I'd like to research the paranormal, especially haunted places I live near. I used to live near a canyon that I spent a lot of time in. I found an article about a group of kids that had an encounter with a skinwalker, which is what led me to want to go on a night hike with some friends. One of these friends was also interested in the paranormal, but as far as I know, didn't know any history about the canyon. The other friend was a skeptic. I didn't tell them what I had learned, as I was pretty sure nothing would even happen during our hike. For context, both my friend and we were very muscular, over 6 foot tall guys, and I'm a very tiny 5'1" girl. Now, on to the good stuff. It was late at night. I went out to a hiking trail that my friends and I had hiked pretty much every week growing up. We knew the trail well, so just going my light and full moon. We didn't need flashlights. I was just walking behind my two friends. We were talking quietly when we all heard what sounded like an elk being attacked. It was so loud, I swear it was almost right next to us. I can still hear that blood-curdling scream. We stood there a while, waited to see if we could hear movement from any animals, but when we didn't hear anything, we kept walking. There wasn't really any predators up there. The only thing that could be is maybe a mountain lion, but those are very rare. We walked for a few feet when we heard a large branch breaking. My friend that was leading froze and yelled, "Fuck this, I'm out." Ran back to the car. My other friend and I didn't know what was going on. Then my other friend goes, "Nope, I'm out," and books it back to the car too. I heard a branch break in front of me about 6 feet away. I turned to look and saw a large gray wolf staring at me, and then shifts into a large dark-skinned man with some sort of animal pelt hood thing and glowing red eyes. I've never ran so fast in my life. Made it back to the car and sped out of there. My friends told me that what I all saw, it was a wolf, which isn't native to where we live. I told them that I saw the wolf, and it turned into a man with red eyes. I had to break the news to his spirit that they were dead, and I cried for him. I ghost hunt at the Mansfield Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio a lot. In fall of 2019, I discovered someone lingering in the east showers. No one had known about him, so I kept him a secret for a bit. We got really close and I learned some things about him, and he's visited me at home, which isn't a problem for me, but mind you, I use my pendulum to speak to him. Months later on another hunt, we discovered that he was being abused and was very badly hurt. He was hiding in a corner, scared for his life, so my father helped him out and escorted him to the hospital to get checked out. We went up a couple of hours later and he felt safe there, so we encouraged him to stay. After this happened, that's when I started to tell people of his existence and inform them of what had happened to him. When I first met him, I had found out that he didn't know that he was dead. I felt like it wasn't my place to tell him, and if it ever did become my place to tell, I knew that it was too soon. June 2020 rolls around. I invite some friends along with my dad to help me speak to him, because I knew there was something that had to be talked about. Up in the hospital, another spirit had been harassing him and telling him what to do, and he couldn't escape it. My dad was helping him understand that, and understand that he doesn't have to listen to this guy, especially because he has no superiority over him. He was basically just a guy who was trolling him. My dad started slowly easing into it, asking him how it's possible that he hasn't eaten in a while, explaining to him that he's able to go through walls and leave rooms whenever he wants, telling him that he can leave whenever this troll is harassing him. My anxiety and intuition started to raise, but the anxiety wasn't my own. I knew that straight away. Something was telling me that he was nervous about what my dad was saying to him. I ended up taking over and explaining how we're all dressed differently, how we're all wearing masks because of a pandemic, because it's 2020, not the 1890s. I said, "Do you know where I'm getting at?" And my pendulum responded with a yes. And right after that, I could feel tears coming, and I said, "I can't do it." I couldn't tell him that he was dead. But he already knew. I started crying really hard, and I felt a huge pain in my chest. The kind of pain you feel when you've just been told that a loved one's died. And I knew I wasn't crying, and it was him crying. Never felt another's emotions before, and the pain I felt, I knew it was his. and so did everybody else who witnessed that. A friend who took an audio recording of the session told me that she heard a male's voice say, "dead," after I asked if he knew where I was getting at. When she played it for me, I heard it too, and we knew it was him. I cried for a good couple of minutes and was telling my dad how heartbroken he was to hear that. It was very hard for both of us, but eventually he grew to accept it. Ever since then, I've become sensitive and can sometimes feel the emotions of the spirits I speak to. Sometimes it's strong, sometimes it's not there. It was one hell of an experience, but I love him to death and hope I never lose him. That's how close we became. I was told that we have a special connection, and I don't doubt it because I feel it. Anyways, thanks for listening to my experience. Been wanting to share it somewhere. Edit. There's a hospital wing on the second floor, which is where we sent him to. Sorry for not explaining that better. Edit 2. Thank you for sharing your similar experiences and just commenting overall. If you're here to basically shit on me and tell me what I said is fake, then I feel sorry for you, because you don't have to be so bored to be on the subreddit in the first place to invalidate another's experience. I know the truth, and this is it. I shared it because I want to meet like-minded people, and I did. But there are always bad apples and skeptics who want to put others down for believing in something as interesting as the paranormal. The crossing over is in November. He'll be in a happier and safer state. My first and last time in Lay Woods. My name is Luke, and I'm now 20 years old. This story happened to me when I was 17. This experience still gives me chills to this day. In May of 2017, I found myself going a lot more on a mountain bike, and I was getting bored of cruising around the streets. So I wanted to go for a trail and a woodland bike ride. I've never been to Lay Woods before then. Personally, I don't think I'll be going alone again. After some research into a few different areas, Lay Woods seemed to be my best bet. Living only a couple of miles away, it was a nice bike ride. On arriving, it looked very peaceful and was almost like in a dream, at least by the first look at the place. For a woodland area in England, let alone Bristol, it was amazing. On going into the woods, I remembered seeing different colors at the start of each trail, signifying difficulty for bikers and lengths for walkers. Don't take my word on that bit. I still have no clue what they mean. So I decided to go down a colored, I can't remember very well, I think it was blue, a colored trail, to see how it was there. Finding it exciting, I decided to go down the harder trail, and now here's where it starts to get weird. I began having this weird sort of vision looking around as if I'm being swallowed by the woodland. Everything felt like it was getting bigger and farther away. I brushed it off, but it turns out I actually lost track of time. I got lost on the trail. Now bear in mind, I'm being very observant and aware of my surroundings before this trail. I then come to a strange opening. I could go left in the rough direction of the way, out or right, deeper into the woods. Me being me, I decided to go deeper into the woods. I came to a weird little trail that just had dodgy written all over it, metaphorically speaking. I went against my gut feeling of turning back and went down there. I came to a point of which the trail continued, but it was getting dangerous. The trail being too bumpy for me to even walk down, I then turned back. But for a few minutes before turning back, I don't know why, but I just stood still, staring down at that trail. I felt like I was being watched from all angles, even though it would be near impossible to have that many eyes surrounding me. I got nervous and began walking back up the hill as I was too tired to ride at this point. Keep in mind, my bike tires are completely solid. No punctures, slow punctures, or even anything wrong at all. Wish I still had pictures of the bike. Upon getting back to the spot where I originally went to the trail, that weird loss of time thing happened. It felt as if the whole path had stretched by half a mile, as if the woodland was moving. I began walking up the path feeling that same eerie sensation of being watched as I did beforehand. This time it felt like a bit more sinister. It felt as if something was about to happen. Bearing in mind again that I hadn't seen a single person at this point in time. I'll explain the scenery before continuing. It's a long path, a slight steep hill to my left, a very narrow river to my right, maybe 4 feet deep and maybe 4 feet wide. Bushes are on the other side of the river with the odd tree every now and then. Upon getting about a quarter of the way up the slowly inclining path, I hear a woman crying behind a tree up ahead. I started slowing down my walking pace to try and get a good look behind the tree, but the whole time I'm thinking to myself, why would someone jump across to cry behind a tree? So I edge closer to the river to look behind to see if the person is okay. Also because many people go to Lay Woods to commit suicide. So I was hoping to maybe help this person. But you guessed it, there's no one there and the crying stopped. A bit weirded out, I slowly turn away and start walking again, a bit quicker as I was unnerved this time. I've had paranormal experiences before, but not usually in a place like the woods, usually in a house or some sort of building. So this was new to me. I had this sudden shiver as I was walking, and maybe a minute or so later, only a couple meters away from where I'd heard the crying, it started again. But this time it was kind of right opposite me across the river. I didn't bother looking. I started to go into a bit of a jog, and as I got faster, I heard the bushes rustling as if they or it was following me. Upon hearing this, I sped up, and the crying became more and more hysterical. Bear in mind, my bike was fine before this moment in time. I thought to myself, fuck this, I'm gone. I went to hop on my bike, and with the adrenaline that was rushing through me, I came to an almost sudden stop. My back tire on my bike had become completely flat, so I had no other choice but to sprint with my bike and pray for the best that I don't trip or end up having to throw it to run faster. With the crying person still close to me and keeping me up, I'm running faster and faster, praying I'd just get off this path that I was on. I had that feeling if I wanted to cry because I couldn't actually do anything to help the situation or get out of it faster. And after what felt like an hour, but in reality was probably only 5 or 10 minutes, I could see the car park. The crying had stopped following me and getting closer and started moving back down to where I first heard it. I sprinted out of that car park. I must have been as white as a sheet of paper and hysterical with my breathing and wheezing as multiple people in the car park turned to look at me like I was crazy. I saw the exit sign out of the car park and I ran toward it. Whilst doing so, I noticed my bike to be moving a lot smoother on approaching the car park exit. I couldn't believe that my bike tire had suddenly regained all of its air. It was solid again, at least as it was before. I jumped on my bike, got away from Lay Woods as fast as I could. I've never gone back since. Every person that tells this story becomes reluctant to go there with me or any extra people. Abandoned house on my old street. So I've just come across an article about an abandoned house on my old street. When I was younger, me and my mates would always say it's haunted. Me and one of my mates lived on that same street and had weird dreams and nightmares. I had a dream that we went inside. We fell through the floor onto spikes and died instantly. He had a dream that I walked inside and made no noise and never came out and never reappeared anywhere. This house is pretty spooky. I'm going to attach a photo of the main headline and it'll give the caption as the link to the article. So the main points here I want to make. We saw 2 figures in the middle window of the house with glowing eyes staring at us as we stood across the street trying to decide who's going to knock on the door like the stupid kids we were. The next is, whenever I did a paper route, at least when I was younger, I tried to avoid this house. I got told I still had to deliver there, so I did. I ran down the path, scrambled for a newspaper, put it in, and it was pulled from my hand through the letterbox. There was no noise on the other side of the door. This house has been abandoned for maybe 12 years at that point in time. Even as I got older, still freaked out by that house. My old creepy bedroom. In like 2010 or 2011, I had a bottom bunk bed, my older brother having the top. We were watching late night TV way past our bedtime. I was 10 or 11 at the time, and he was 15 or 16. We both swear to this day that we both saw the exact same thing. As mentioned, it was way past our bedtime. Our mom would be in her room, which was on the other side of the wall. My dad would be downstairs on the sofa, like the strange man he was. We had 3 cats and 2 dogs at this time. While watching TV, our bedroom door flew open. We both thought it was our big dog, who was quite the hefty golden retriever. It wasn't. Seconds later, we seen something straight out of a horror movie. A golden clawed hand. I've never even heard of anything like that. For a few seconds, it reached around the door and grasped at the air, then pulled away very quickly. As we were shitting bricks at this point, our storage closet door flew open, also with some old junk falling out of it. To this day, we are still confused. Like 9 or 10 years later, we have no idea what went on that night. Between then, maybe 2016, it was just odd knocks, scrapes and scratches and shuffling noises, with the occasional breathy type sound. I can't remember many significant events in this period, though it might come to me soon. Roughly 2016 and 2017, I was 16 or 17 years old. I wanted to capture some of the noises and weird things happening at night, and downloaded a sleep recorder app. I still have the recordings to this day, and I'll be adding that to the comments of this post. A little background as to why both these recordings are creepy as shit. Around this time, we had builders fitting new roof tiles or something like that. One of them dropped a hammer and it went straight through the roof, through the attic, and into my bedroom. They patched the outer roof, but my bedroom ceiling had a hole in it for a while. My attic was a scary place, daytime or nighttime. Even at the age of 20, I'll never go up there. Well, one night I would be trying to sleep, but feel as though I'm being watched. I keep looking around trying to find some comfort to brush off my paranoia, and out of the corner of my eye I see the hole in my ceiling and these red eyes staring right at me, even with a pupil. I believe they had pupils. When I made eye contact, the thing blinked, and a couple seconds later they disappeared. The first recording I got was around 1:19 a.m., and I was 100% asleep, as I remember this too clearly to ever forget. So at 1:19 a.m. I caught a recording with a weird electronic type voice that says, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark is watching. The voice was deep, and when it said the word watching, it turned into a deep, light growl. Of course, as mentioned since 2011, there was always weird knocks in my bedroom. Even me being alone there would be knocks. On the wall behind my head, my window, my bedroom door, the closet door, everywhere in that room I experienced knocking sounds. I liked to think that it was my house settling, until I found the second recording. The second recording, I think, was also when I was asleep. I'll have to fact-check that via the recording names, but the second recording says, "Knock, knock, knock. Who's there?" The voice is a bit more quick, and after these two recordings, I stopped sleeping in my room and moved to my living room sofa. For the last 3 years until moving out, I've never slept in my room, ever. I'll post unlisted YouTube videos of the recordings below. Bear in mind that while trying to enhance the second one, the audio file kept becoming ear-piercingly harsh. It was either too fuzzy, or whenever the voice said knock, 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 it would be too rumbly. The voice was literally all across the frequency spectrum from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Lucifer said, "It'll be fine." They might have meant fine, but they wrote fine. So around February time of 2019, I had a few weird things going on at home. This is when I was sleeping on my sofa in my living room. If you read my last experience, you'll understand. I know the whole 3 a.m. superstitions are a little bit exaggerated nowadays, but I feel there's some truth to them. This song that I wrote, the title of this story, tells me that there's some truth to the whole 3 a.m. thing. I remember exactly the time. It was 3:23 a.m. I had no intentions of writing any music. I had an odd feeling for a good hour or so beforehand, as if I wasn't alone. My old house was kind of scary no matter what time of day it was, at least when I was alone. So this was not a new feeling, but it was an intense one, and definitely my most unnerving one. Anyway, I had no intentions of writing any music, and suddenly bars, a term in music if you're not familiar, some bars of the start of the song began popping into my head. So I started writing them down. I completely blanked out, and for the next 10 minutes or so, it was like I had no control whatsoever of myself or my actions. I felt like an empty vessel of some sort. At 3:33 a.m., I came back round. Every few seconds, I had some kind of flash image popping into my head of some sort of entity that I would later become familiar with. Looking at my phone, I can see I have a full song written out, structured, perfectly written. It's as if something put the song into my head for me to write out on my phone. A little extra info before moving on. I went to music college at the time, studying production, but I used their recording studio to record my songs in my free time. I had to wake up around 7:30 the same night and morning that I wrote the song. That way I would have 4 hours of sleep. With the song written, me being slightly confused and deciding to go to sleep, in which I had a dream that I was floating up in what seemed to be an infinite spiral staircase. Upon reaching the top of the stairs, there was a doorway with a long hallway. I went to take a step toward it, and a pale, chalky-skinned, demonic-looking woman darted down the hallway at me. Just shrieked in my face. There wasn't a thing I could do about it. I couldn't snap out of the dream. I couldn't wake up or move within the dream. I had to deal with it for as long as it lasted. It felt like forever until I eventually woke up. And here's where it gets even more odd than it's already been. So when I fell asleep, I was facing the TV with the doorway of the living room behind me. But when I woke up, I was in the exact same laying position, but instead facing the doorway, which for some reason was a lot wider than usual. This way I could see down the hallway. I couldn't move. I believe I was experiencing sleep paralysis. After a couple of odd footsteps-like sounds, I see a dark, furry-looking hand reach over the banister of the stairs in my hallway. Slowly walking down the stairs was a dark, black, fur-covered human body thing with a bull's head, 2 horns, 3 yellow glowing eyes, with a dark denim jacket. It was walking in a menacing yet sarcastic way, as if it was mocking my lack of ability to move. It's like it knew I was scared. When it got closer to the bottom of the stairs, it's like it started laughing under its breath. And as it reached the bottom of the stairs, I managed to somehow snap out of the sleep paralysis I was experiencing. Oddly, I was still, laying down facing the doorway of my living room. Everything had went back to normal, but with a very dark atmosphere all around me. It felt as though there was a dark cloud around me that I couldn't see, as if a parallel dimension was following my every move. I had so much adrenaline that morning I didn't even struggle getting ready for college. That whole day I had the feeling of something over my shoulder. It felt like there was always something that I just couldn't see following me. Maybe it was my paranoia, maybe it was really something, but when I went into the studio to record, something kept telling me to redo the recording. Something was putting words into my head. I had something guiding me to make the song as perfect as possible. Something that I wish I could say was a good thing, but while recording I had a sudden rush of energy. It wasn't a physical energy, more of a mental energy. It's as if the thing over my shoulders was judging me constantly, making me redo or keep the recordings of the song. I can relate to that. Anyway, my friend who was helping me record the song kept making little twitches and movements when the song got to its most crucial moment. The part in the song where I repeat, "Lucifer lied, Lucifer lied." I feel like that's the kind of demon that was watching over my shoulder for all the wrong reasons that day. But all of the right reasons to watch Paranormal M. See ya.